Welcome back to Neanderthal. Alright, 4.6 and 5.4 Ford fans, if you're thinking about buying a set of TrickFlow twisted wedge heads, press pause on that for a minute and pull up a stool and sit a while. TrickFlow has themselves a dirty little secret about these heads, and yeah, so long story. I've been trying to figure out how to do this without being too negative and going too dark and sounding too much like a pissed off redneck. But this whole thing got me to the point where I don't even want any fucking thing to do with this goddamn thing no more at all. And to the point where was done with the YouTube videos totally, because they're dumb and nobody watches them. And anybody who wants to work on these motors, I'm to the point where, or I was to the point where I was like, fuck it, you're on your own. Have fun with this shit. So this is for Mike. I think his name is Mike. One of the only people that have commented on my videos. One of my like 4 subscribers. Thanks, Mike. Or comment people. I don't even know if he's a subscriber. But he said something about like he's planning on building a motor, one of these motors, I think an Expedition or something, which is a new round of problems. Expedition and Navigators have a different 5.4. Stay tuned, there'll be a video on that. But with this, here we go. So if we look at here, we're going to start this off by saying fuck you TrickFlow and fuck you George Reed. If you're thinking about building one of these motors, or just like reading stuff, or if you're actually thinking about taking action on one of these motors, do not buy this book. This book has more misinformation and more skimmed over bullshit than you'd almost be better off not buying this at all and just reading forums and shit. And that's dicey and scary as shit. So yeah, fuck you George Reed. But the only thing useful I found with this book right here. So if we look here, we can see on a stock head, we have valve spring, 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 right? And on the other side of the cam right here, we would have lifter, 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 right? And follower in between. But we can see this, right? We're all in a straight row. Okay. Now when we go over to this, this is TrickFlow's diagram. So the other thing I'm doing is I'm using TrickFlow's supplied information against them, because I honestly couldn't find a good way to show this, and this is plain as day. The only other way you can see this is if you try to degree your camshaft. You will find that the intake center line and the exhaust center lines don't jive the way they should. And if you watch Modular Head Shop on YouTube, they make their own camshafts. Guy's got a pretty good explanation, but it's with the degree wheel, and unless you're doing that kind of stuff every day, it's hard to like, it kind of comes off as gobbledygook to the average dude. So as you see here, we have lifter, valve spring, lifter. They crisscrossed them up. TrickFlow did this, and they run a little bit steeper angle on their valves, similar to a small block Ford. They did this to gain clearance on their valves, so they can run longer duration, and the piston doesn't get into the valve. So I think as far as the head goes, it's probably a good thing. But where they went wrong, okay, so we've seen the difference. We've seen what they've done is they've spun this whole valve arrangement. All right, that changes the geometry a lot. So you're gonna probably hear about TrickFlow's valve train geometry issues. Now, we look here. Here it is, kind of a little bit more of an arrangement of how their camshaft is and everything. We let this focus out a little bit. Okay, there's a good shot. Kind of if I could sit still. Okay, so if we look there, trying to use both hands. So we can see the cam, we can see the the lifter here, follower here, valve here. Okay, so let's say that this is number 1 cylinder, right? There's your intake, first in line. Your exhaust is going to be flipped, right? Because they crisscrossed them up. So you're going to have this arrangement flipped, right? So you're on your exhaust, this whole thing here will be mirror image flipped. Your valve will be here, your lifter will be here, and this follower will be facing the other way. That changes things significantly. But for those, without getting into the thousands of inches and all the shit integrating, if you want to watch Modular Head Shop, watch some guys do it. If you can watch Modular Head Shop guy do it a couple times, he talks really, really fast, and unless you're down with his jargon, it's going to come off like gobbledygook, but here we go. Plain as day version. Intake center line, as it comes around the lobe of the camshaft, you see how this is shaped here. Alright? Almost like it's shaped that way to properly receive the lobe of the lifter, meaning that as this lobe turns around, this has ample clearance and the proper geometry to receive it, right? If we look at the other side of this, not so much. Okay, now why would this matter? Well, on this, your camshaft always spins clockwise, okay? So knowing that, if we were to take this and invert it, or mirror image flip it, so springs over here, lifters over here, right? Everything's backwards except for the way that the cam turns. So with this spun around, that means that the lifter's over here, this side of the follower that is not the same geometry as this side, which does not appear to me to have the same geometry to properly receive the lifter. Because over here you see how we're not in a reception kind of a mode here, right? So that's like alarm bells right there going off in my head. Now, when we were looking at getting these heads, so we were looking at all kinds of things. How much for a bare head? How much for everything in pieces? And then we saw Summit had, you know, the Trick Flow top end kit, which do not get. I got it. Do not get it. Now here's why. They use a stock PI, well, not a stock. They use a camshaft for a PI head on this head, knowing that this head has changed geometry, and it's valve train geometry. All right, no, not just changed, but like significantly altered. Why would they do that? Why would they give you a camshaft that's designed to work in this head, okay, and assemble it in a kit with this head? Okay, why would they do that? Why would they have a cam where your lifters or your valves are all in a row, a camshaft that's designed for this configuration? Why would they sell you that in this kit? And if you don't believe me, this is the camshaft for this kit. And again, this is Trick Flow supplied stuff. Okay, so this diagram that I just showed you here, this is in your assembly instructions. So now that you know this, you can take this and flip it around in your head and go, oh, wow, that's different. Okay. This is Trick Flow's supplied website information. So if you search the camshaft part number, focus shit. All right, this is what we got in our kit. This is our stage 1 cams, right? Now, we did our due diligence. We talked to Trick Flow, we talked to Summit, and Trick Flow guys said the same thing. That these heads need the special camshaft. That these heads, the geometry, they've been significantly changed, and they need these camshafts. And I read up article on All Cylinders by Summit, said the same thing. Now, if that's the case, why does it say this? Works with stock PI heads or Trick Flow twisted wedge 185 heads. How can that work? Okay, so we talked to Trick Flow, okay, and basically they're quick to blame everybody. And the final buck is going to lie with you, the purchaser, and the guy who tunes your vehicle, because they say this problem shows up in short-term trims when you're tuning your motor. So when I was degreeing the head, they don't give you the exhaust center line on this. And you need that because that's how this problem shows up. I mean, anybody can put it on an intake center line, but your double check is your exhaust center line. And when we phoned Trick Flow, it was originally to get the exhaust center line, and they didn't have it. Okay? They sell camshafts, but they don't have a complete cam card. Unfucking believable. So now what do we do? Do you run these wrong camshafts that we have that we're stuck with because Trick Flow says there's no problem? Summit, Trick Flow says they won't do anything anyway, no matter what, because we bought it from Summit and we have to go through Summit. Summit says they won't do anything either because we've had the parts too long. So my next bitch is this entire industry supposedly totes itself to DIY guys, like that's who they're advertising, that's who they're selling to, guys that do shit out of their garage and, you know, have a full-time job or whatever, and this is what they do for whatever. Absolutely no forgiveness on time duration from when you purchase it to whatever, and then they lecture you like a little kid. Well, here's my lecture. This shit takes a while. This shit takes a while to do. It's a lot of labor. It takes even longer to save up for. It's money. It's time. People that do this shit can... I had a teacher who had a 39 Chevy who rebuilt it himself, put a subframe in it like street rod. 20 years in his car. 20 years. Okay? And these not lazy. Like, it took them that long to save and figure and learn and do, and that's what this industry is built on, and that's who these people are shitting on. You and me. It's fucking wrong. So, again, fuck you, Trick Flow. Fuck you, George Reed. And Mike, man, if you're thinking about doing one of these motors, stay tuned and subscribe, goddammit. Another issue I found with these motors is there's 3 different timing chains you can get for a 2-valve motor. Even though there's a 4.6 and a 5.4, there's a 5.4 Romeo engine, which is in Expeditions and Navigators. So, Mike, lots to learn, buddy. We'll be doing more videos. I'm not sure if I'm going to phone Trick Flow. I'll leave that. If anybody wants to comment, I'm thinking about doing like a Jerky Boys thing where I phone these companies and give them shit and videotape it. But this is just, so I might phone them, I might record the conversation, and I might put it up live. Because these guys are, man, the grass is blue and the sky is green. There are no problems. They're out of their fucking minds. And they honestly did this. I don't think I answered why they did this. Because they had the stock PI head camshafts, not stock camshafts, but for that head, that configuration, this part number in stock before they ever built this head. They built the head, jammed that cam in there, and fucked us all in the ass with a kit. If you're considering doing this, buy the bare heads. Then buy a camshaft from, I think there's 2 companies, and I'll be listing, okay, Modular Head Shop for sure, and there's another one. Yeah, get their camshafts or see where you can get, but yeah, do not buy the kit. Do not buy the kit. Do not buy the fucking kit. Fuck Trick Flow.